think it's going. It'll pop up on our phones here shortly. Time restraints, I believe, okay, so we're live. If I can be done by like 5:20 at the latest is kind of my goal. If 5 o'clock works, that's even better, but 5:15, 5:20 would be amazing. But
Yeah,
we'll
I don't, unless Kim has any surprises, I think we're gonna have a pretty streamlined meeting.
No surprise.
So, great. So this is the Finance Committee meeting, and we have the mayor, we have Councilman Bruger, we have Kim Pulley, and fiscal officer Leah. Oh, Leah, last name is
fine.
Fine.
Fine. Thank you. Couldn't get it out. All right. David is not present at the moment. He's also on the committee. So we'll go ahead and get started since it's 4:05. Anyway, so Kim, what I thought, I just sent that email. So if we could just, is there anything that, whatever you might want to point out in the May report, any items of interest, anything, just go through. My list was just the general list that we usually do when we have a finance meeting. So if you want to take it from there, go ahead.
Sure. I'm going to screen share so you guys can look at this report if that's
Great. That's fine.
okay.
Mhm.
Let's see.
And if you can't for some reason, I'm sure I can.
Do you see the
Yep,
There
there
it
it is.
It's
Perfect.
teeny tiny, but we see it.
It's always teeny tiny, Diane. Is that better?
Yeah, that's somewhat better. Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to highlight other than the fact that we're still kind of unsure about what the municipal income tax is going to look like.
Yeah.
Historically, we've brought in about 50%-ish, 50 to 55% of our revenue by the end of May for the year. Obviously, this is not a typical year, and obviously the deadline got extended. And I believe we're up about another 100,000 for June, but we're still running below what we had intended to run. So I'm still not sure how much of that is. I'm sorry.
Oh, and you saw the email I just sent with the numbers I pulled from 2019 versus 2020.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, and what I wanted to do is just have a running, which I did. I pulled the 2019 property tax and income tax numbers, budget versus revenue, and then compared them 19 to 20. And I put that in an email, but I also have, if you want to pop it up real quick, I can.
Oh, sure. Let me stop this.
Okay.
And I still don't think that property tax is going to be impacted nearly the way. The only impact that we're going to have is that Franklin County is delaying their second half collection. But it's only going to be a timing issue. It's not going to be a collection issue. And we should still get it. We would normally receive it in August. I believe they're doing a 90-day extension. So we should still be seeing our money in October or November. So it still should be in this calendar year. And since we're not completely dependent on the property taxes, cash flow wise, we shouldn't have too much of an issue with that delay either.
So so I'm showing on the property
54%. How about that?
Yeah, we're pretty close. We're not bad on that. Of course, it's the income tax, which is not surprising, but the income tax is where we're lagging.
Yeah, and I do think I think after July, now the deadline is in July, so we won't see July collections until the month of August. I think we'll know by mid-August what we're really looking at.
I would agree. I haven't paid mine yet. I'm not going to pay mine till I have to. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to track it. That's all. I
Yeah.
hope I'll be delighted if it all comes out in the wash, but I was just curious about how we were trending. So that's all it is just to make sure we're just watching it.
Yeah. Yep, property taxes, I think, like I said, we're gonna trend right on like we have been. Partly because a lot of people pay their property taxes at the beginning of the year. Partly because the property tax values, if they have changed, are not reflected in this calendar year because this is as of January 1st, 2019 that we're collecting on. So property taxes, I don't think are going to, they should come in right around that 446 mark, possibly a little higher. That just depends on delinquencies and things from past years, if that goes higher or lower. You might see your delinquency rate rise a little bit, but that's more along the lines of we'll get 444,000 instead of 446.
Now,
So I don't think that's going to be an issue.
has the state given people any kind of a pass on property
yet.
taxes for, okay, they haven't done that on that, because I had some problem with on insurance, on a particular insurance I had. They didn't receive the check and all that, and I said, well, you know, I wanted to wait a little bit longer if possible because I didn't want to pay for a stop check, you know. So anyway, they said, oh, well, you've got it suspended anyhow. There is no penalty right now, and there's for insurance payments. So I thought, wow, you know, what else is out there like that? So, but you're saying on this other, well, we already know about the income tax too. Do you think, has anybody heard any kind of rumors about the income tax being pushed even further out?
I
haven't
doubt
heard
that it
anything.
will.
Last I heard, I thought it was June 15th. Is that?
No.
I think it's July 15th. July
July.
15th.
Okay.
Yeah, and I honestly don't see them pushing that out any further, just because they know how many municipalities especially are so heavily income tax dependent that cash flow is already being disrupted. I don't think there's going to be appetite for pushing it out even further.
Yeah, my property taxes are not due. I think it's August 5th is when my property taxes are due, because mine is not in a mortgage payment. I write a check for it at the beginning of the year, and in typically June. It's usually due like around the 20th. It's due August 5th for property taxes. And RETA taxes, I actually heard that was later than, you guys keep going. I'm going to find it because I actually thought it was later than that.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this one? And I'll stop. If we're done, I can stop sharing. I wanted to make sure that those numbers looked okay, and I can pass this on to the rest of the council people. I just didn't want to do that without Kim saying they looked all right with her. So
It looked great to me.
okay, so I will stop sharing mine now. Stop sharing. Okay, and back to you, Kim.
I gotta find it again.
It does still show July 15th. So you guys are correct
Okay.
for RETA, for income tax.
Can you see again?
Yes.
Okay. So obviously the pool just opened, and I've seen, I was in the bank earlier, and there's lots of deposits, so that's good. That means sounds like people are going. I don't think we'll get close to this 52,000 number, but I don't think, if we end up about 2/3 of that, I would be probably happy with this season. So we'll know more on that one too by the end of this month, where we're looking at for there. Let's see.
Well,
I'm going to predict we're going to exceed that amount, just so you know.
so last year, over half of our receipts last year were from people who paid as they went, right?
Mhm.
And
Yes.
and that's totally weather dependent.
Mhm.
So, you know, when you said, Tiffany, that the number of memberships had gone sky high, I assume these are non-residents. We've never
I have
had.
no place to go.
There's quite a few I wish maybe on the next meeting that we come to, I'll see how many are residents and how many are non-residents. We even have a couple employees that have bought from like EMS. I'm gonna veer to say we're probably close to $24,000 in memberships already, as an FYI.
Wow.
And we've been averaging probably close to, I'm going to go with, we had a couple really bad days, but we have had a couple days that were $900, almost $900 already. So we've been averaging
pretty good.
about $400, $450 a day since we've been opened. So if the weather cooperates and we can, I mean, there's a lot of ifs obviously, but in the event that we can keep going with the daily rates, if we can, my goal is to exceed the 52,000, and that does not include the, we have somebody, the club that rents it in the
Okay,
morning.
people.
Yeah.
So my goal is to exceed 52,000, just so you know, even if it's $52,005.
So on this, that what I'm looking here where it says swimming pool, 52,000, was that our projected, what we thought we were going to make? And then the 49,950, is that what we made last year or?
No, the 49,950 is just the difference between the 52,000 and the 2,000 that we've already brought in.
Oh, I
at
see.
the end of May.
Okay. I'm sorry. I see.
It's the remaining.
Okay. And but the 52,000 is what we expect to bring in.
Yeah, right. That's what we expected at the beginning of the year before.
Yeah.
COVID hit.
Okay.
Before COVID happened.
And is that higher or lower than it normally is? About the same?
It's about the same. I think last year we ended up right around 52,000. We usually try to budget around 50. That's usually
Mhm.
where we end up. We either end up with, if the weather's bad, we usually end up a little less. I think we've been as low as 47, 48, and we've been as high as maybe 54 when it's been hot. So
Mhm.
it averages out to between 50 and 52.
And just because I'm curious, how much does it cost us to run it? Because I know it costs more to run it than we make. I'm just
Right.
curious how much.
Sure.
more.
This year, we've got budgeted to spend about $80,000 running it, but about half of which is lifeguards.
So a little
Right.
less than
Yeah.
30,000. That's not too terribly bad to subsidize it, I'd say, for the.
No,
advantage.
that's definitely not atypical for a government.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's not bad for what it gives us. Well spent.
Right.
That's all. That was one of the only questions. I'll let you get back to it.
Our interest rates, we have a lot in CDs. So the ones that are maturing between now and the end of the year are still at a pretty good interest rate. They're still over 2%, but the ones we're getting into now are obviously not.
Terrible, yeah.
Have tanked. So I don't think we'll hit as high as 50,000, but I still think we'll end up, let's say, in the 40,000 range, just because we are into having those 2% maturities coming up. The other miscellaneous operating, we did get back. I don't know if you all heard that BWC did a premium refund thanks to COVID. So we ended up getting essentially our 2018 premium refunded to us. So that's why this is significantly higher than what we had expected to receive.
And that'll stay in that same fund, right?
Yes, it stays in the general fund.
Okay.
Streets, gas tax will probably see a hit on. Obviously, people aren't driving as much,
Right.
but it's about a 3 to 4 month delay. So what we're seeing now is February, March collections. So in the next couple months, we'll really see how much that do. I don't think it's going to impact us enough to not do the Cleveland Avenue Maplewood intersection, which is the primary project that we've been intending to do with that money. We'll still have the money in there to do that. It'll just be how quickly that fund rebuilds after that project's completed. And I'm not sure, are we still thinking of doing that this fall, or is that going to be pushed into the spring, do we think?
I'm going to go with spring. It's not even been discussed, to be completely honest.
And as a resident on Maplewood, I mean, it's not great up there, but it's not terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was. And I'm not
those are
sure,
just my
Mark,
2 cents.
I'm not sure if you were aware of this or not, but in 2015, we had an engineering study done of our streets, and that intersection and the road that the pool was on were the 2 streets in the village that were rated as failing. So that was why we were going to address that. I would recommend probably in the next year or two, we have another assessment, but we were going to kind of wait until after we did the Maplewood project because we already knew it was failing. We don't need to pay somebody to tell us it's still failing, but we would like to get a handle on the rest of the roads to see where we are with them. Let's see. Storm sewer, we sent, we got a thing back from the treasurer's office that they needed some additional information. So we got that sent off to them last week. That did restart for them to make a decision. So hopefully by early next week at the latest, we'll have our answer, and hopefully it will be a yes. Because obviously that storm sewer fund needs that money. So they should have everything they need. And I want to say I'd be surprised if they don't approve it, but I don't want to get my hopes up because this is the state government we're talking about. So, but I think we've given them every possible, everything we can to prove that we need that money and that we can afford that money and that we're not mismanaging any of the money that we do have. So
Yeah, you
I
guys
don't know what they'll do.
put in the effort. I mean, it's hard to, hard to believe they even needed more information, but they must have some check boxes that they have to
The
fill.
additional information that they asked for was they wanted our fee schedule and they wanted the legislation showing where we were allowed to charge the fees. So we sent them the ordinance and we sent them the fee schedule, and fingers crossed.
Okay, yeah.
Water line, we're about done, right? How many houses do we still expect MI to permit? There's
they're
probably
done.
less than 5.
We're
They are
done,
done?
aren't we? Aren't we done?
I believe we're done. Now, whether or not there's money lagging, that remains to be seen, but I do believe they are all permitted. Let me rephrase that. I'm positive of that.
Okay, great. Probably this is probably going to go up slightly then because I think that there were a couple left at the end of May, so I'm assuming
Probably.
that they're going to be in June. So this will increase slightly. Yeah. Apologies. We are still getting some money trickling in from the EMS. So I don't know if we want to kind of touch on that and where that is. I don't know. I know there was a safety committee meeting a couple weeks ago to talk about that, but I don't know if it's gone anywhere since then. But I had told Jean that the number that we're really comfortable with is in the 150 to 170,000 range. And I obviously know that's not where they wanted us to be. So I don't know where that will end up, but if it's much more than that, we're gonna have to really look at some things because we'll be hurting nice. I don't know.
Did we were waiting for the chief to have a meeting with the interim chief, right? But
Yeah.
isn't that time passed for that? I mean, 2 weeks? Hasn't it been 2 weeks for us?
Just as you're talking, I'm actually sending a message.
Okay.
And then even without that because I'm on safety, we had already decided,
To keep moving.
well, and to counter with, I think it might have been 150. I can't remember. It was like a little bit more than what we spend now, not as much as they do, but it was like a 20% increase. So I think it was 150 because 20% of 125 is 25, et cetera, et cetera. And I think we actually came out to not 150, but 148.75 because that was an actual just 20% increase and didn't look like an arbitrary number. So and who knows what they're going to do. Our chief seems to think maybe that, a lot of this was just the guy who they got rid of, and he might be able to talk it off. I would love if he could. If not, I guess.
I guess my point was that, our chief wants to propose something, and in terms of agreed upon staffing levels. And my point is I don't think I've ever seen a budget for what his ideally he would want to do and where we would come out with that budget.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't it
Yes,
close to
he
double?
wants to have a bunch of people on night, 9 to 9 or 9 to 7 or something like that. And so, I mean, as you know, most of your money is in staffing when you're budgeting. So I'm not sure. I was concerned that he was going to propose something that then he was going to turn around and we were going to find out it was like 200,000 or 175,000. I mean, so that was where I was concerned, and I thought that they were going to circle back around to you, Kim, to see about that, but I don't know if anyone's approached you about an actual budget if we were to continue EMS services under the proposal that the chief wants to propose to Columbus. Has anyone approached you about that?
Not yet. No.
And just as an FYI, he's not been able to set a date yet.
Okay. So, again, we're continuing to lose money. It's just a matter of, how long do you go doing that before you, I guess we're committed to doing it through the end of the year, just dragging this along. I mean, are we going to, do we feel like financially we need to say, okay, this enough is enough, paying people to work a little bit just so we can maintain EMS services? At what point does that become, is that something we can do ongoing forever and ever? Or is this something that we need to financially draw a line in the sand on?
So Diane, and maybe this is not exactly what you're asking, but I kind of asked in general, there's obviously a nicer way to say it than I think I said it the last time, but again, we're losing money hand over fist because we're barely doing any runs at this point. How long do we keep, I guess I'll just say it, how long do we keep pretending? And the answer, and I don't know if that's exactly how I said it, but the answer was, if we basically halt our services, then we do need Columbus. There is no going back once we do that. So
Right.
the answer that I was given was, until we actually get this resolved, we should continue to try to make arrangements with Columbus. We should try to maintain the services that we have, in the event that we can, put this puzzle back together or whatever. But if we were to eliminate our EMS, then, Columbus has us completely where they want us, which is.
As I understand it, every offer that Columbus has asked of us is significantly more than we're spending now.
Significantly.
So we aren't making money because we're not doing runs, but we're still saying, hey, Columbus, you have to do us for free. And we're
Right.
spending less every month than we're going to have to spend every month once we disband our thing and
Right.
go Columbus.
I think the problem, Mark, is, and it's not, it remains to be seen. The problem with that is Columbus does not want to credit us January through June so far. They want us to pay for 2020 because they are providing service in their eyes. Even though we're providing a service to Minerva Park and, helping out Westerville, they want, the last conversation that I was part of, they have been providing a service. They want us to pay the full boat for 2020. So that's where Diane and I think we're on the same page.
That's part of the financial puzzle of this whole thing. And I am not looking at it. I just wanted to keep it at a level of finance and not get into any, there's emotional aspects of it and
Right.
all that. I get that, but just strictly from a finance point of view, we don't want to be in a position where we've waited and waited and waited and waited and all of a sudden the wherever the bill is coming from, it's so high that that everyone's like, whoa, we shouldn't have waited. Let's not get into that predicament. Let's plan ahead here or think about it ahead. What ifs? Do a couple what ifs here. What if this continued And then in November, you know, would we make a deal in November, or would we, we just seem to be digging a bigger hole every month. We're digging a bigger hole. Maybe. So at what point is the hole too big for us to even consider paying?
I think at this point, we don't really have an option. Columbus wants us to pay a lot more than what we can afford, and the negotiations are in process, I guess. So I feel like
I think it's more to, if we think it's an advantage to us to be procrastinating or stringing this along from our point of view, I'm not sure it is.
I'm not interested in stringing it along and I think the last conversation we had, we all agreed that Rick could have 2 weeks, but we were going to continue, and Jesse was going to continue to move forward, trying to prove the Columbus case of the fact that we already pay Columbus property tax, or I'm sorry, Columbus income tax. A majority of the residents pay. I think Jesse was still working on a couple different avenues, and my recollection was we were still continually moving forward on trying to work something out with Columbus.
Yep, that's what I remember from that safety meeting as well. We had said, here's a counter offer.
Yeah.
All right. So,
And actually, while you guys are doing that, I'll go ahead and send Jesse a message just for an update, and then I will forward it to you guys as well, instead of,
all right,
so
Thank
you have
you.
an idea.
moving along.
Perfect.
All
Thanks.
right, moving along. This is our TIP money. We probably will double this for here, so we're going to end up with about $500,000 to MI this year. I still think we're probably looking at 26-ish before we're getting funding ourselves, and for it to really flow in 27. I feel like 26 we might get a little bit, but 27 will be the year we really start to see the money in our funds instead of back out to them. I don't think there's been any expenses that have been unusual or anything that really we need to highlight. I'm going to actually stop this one, and I'm going to put up the other one. This one. I'm going to make it bigger before Diane asks. Make it bigger. How's that?
Yep, that's pretty good, actually.
Plenty big.
Okay, so still, there's not really been any changes since the last time we talked, because everything that we talked about is still kind of in flux with the income tax. That has not changed. Here's, I'm showing out 175,000, and as you can see with 175,000, when you get down to the bottom line here in year 5, it's 183,000. And I know I've said multiple times that 200 is my limit to where I'm not comfortable if that number is under 200. And the other issue is you can kind of see where this number is trending. When you get out into the next year, if that happens again, you're looking at an almost zero fund balance. So as I said, if we end up at 175, even at 175, we're gonna have to take a hard look at some things to see if there's anything we can cut back on, or if, I know we talked a little bit last time about the possibility of analyzing whether or not it would be beneficial to try for a property tax or fire if we have to go that route, and then come back with a credit for the income tax to see which way might be more beneficial to us. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. But 175,000 is really top dollar of where we can go without going bankrupt, honestly. Without cutting, I mean, obviously there's things we could cut, but with everything that we have planned to do, 175,000 is our cutoff.
And we still are on the discussion about dredging the lake. We still have, as I recall, there was some money put aside for lake
Yes.
projects for this year. Was that right?
Yes, we had 20, under this one here. A little more. This one's not as pretty because this is just my working paper, but it's a little more detailed. But for the lakes for this year, we had set aside 15,000, I think, for oh, that's 410, sorry, 490. There we go. 25,000 to get started with, and I've got 25,000 in engineering. So 50,000 to start, and then down with the debt service, the rest of it would be financed in some sort of note, probably. And I had put for that 325 in addition to the 50 that we were going to pay out of pocket, and then finance 325.
So that's already just cooked into the 5-year projection that we're going
It
to
is.
spend that and do it.
Yes.
Oh, good. Then we should start. Probably
Yes.
another committee needs to come in on this, but start calling people and see who will come and dredge things.
Yeah.
Well, that would have to be, yeah, that would have to be bid out, right? Because of the
Right.
cost of it.
Yep. What's built into this forecast is that 325,000 for dredging and a 1.3 million for a building. Those are the things that are currently built in. They're not committed, obviously, yet, but they are accounted for if that's the route we choose to go.
Yeah, and maybe it'll just be me, or maybe Diane at our next meeting, when you do your committee report on this, you can remind people, because I don't know that all the council members know that, part of our 5-year balanced budget forecast includes, service on debt for getting that done.
Right.
I believe, isn't the community building rebuild also debt service factored in on our 5-year plan?
Yes. Yes. 1.3 million for that one. The 325, I've got budgeted that it actually occurs, the project occurring this year at the end of towards the end of the year. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but when we did this, that was the plan. And then the building of the facility to occur in the spring and summer of next year. So you'd have half a year or debt service on it, and then a full year in 22. But that you'd have a full year for the dredging in 21. That it actually happened in sometime in 20. So yeah, since not too much has changed since our last meeting, if you guys have questions, or if there's anything that you're thinking projects that you want to try and build into things, we can talk about that. Otherwise, I'm open for questions because I don't think there's anything else that needs to be talked about on my end.
And then just to refresh again, we have confirmed for sure, Tiffany, that MI will continue or finish the year with mowing, et cetera, in an MI section.
As of right now, we're expecting September at least before they will pull out of here. Eric did confirm Brian's comment of, in the event that they do pull out before the end of the year, they will actually credit us with the remainder of the year. And I don't quote me exactly on that. I heard a dollar amount, I heard different things, but honestly, September should really just about cut it. So if this goes to the end of September, that we should be fine. So we have not been told a date that they are planning on being done, but basically it's 5 to 6 months from the last hole that was dug, and we're understanding that that was pretty much February, March. So, you know, again, with COVID, I don't know if there was any delays on anything. You know, I'm gonna go with, I see no reason that we should be paying anything this year for the landscape,
Right.
cutting grass, that kind of thing. Now, if there's other maintenance, that, yes, that's gonna be on us.
Right, and we are just, we need to just be patient and wait for them to be ready for that final punch list so that we can make sure we get everything in there that we see is still needing work.
One of the conversations that I don't want to get off of topic, so if I am, you guys can tell me which, or somebody throw it on an agenda somewhere. But we're pushing July. We know that we're going to be taking over all of this land, and we've briefly talked about it. I got Josh to give us an estimate. I've gotten a couple different things, but council themselves have not taken on what are we going to do about, are we going to build a maintenance team? Are we going to buy equipment, or are we going to hire it out? I kind of did a little bit of legwork. I got you guys very little bit of estimates, but I at least started somewhere. But at this point, council needs to take this on. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it in finance, if you want streets to talk about it, if you want community to talk about it, if you want communications to talk about it, or if you guys want to talk about it in a work session.
I think it's, we had given that, there are 4 major projects for this year. And that project was agreed to be taken on, I think, by the community. But someone's, I'll double check it.
Double
'Cause
check.
I wanted to go over it in the next work session anyway, what we agreed to, and if it still makes, what we agreed to still makes sense, and if it's in the right committee.
Okay.
So I did want to just rehash that, so.
I would love it. I
But
would
one
love it.
committee did say that they were gonna work on that, and,
Okay.
So.
Again, I started it. I got a couple balls rolling from that. I was hoping somebody was going to take it and run with it. And
yeah,
I
no,
just-
we definitely need that, and of course that, you know, I think, Kim, you probably just have some kind of lump number for maintenance for next year. in
Right here,
terms of-
actually. When we talked about this originally, we had talked about contracting it out, so this is what's built into it. We had anticipated we'd have some expense this year. It doesn't sound like that'll happen, so that'll save this. But we had budgeted 30,000 to contract out that mowing. Obviously, if we want to go our own route, that's probably, we don't have the equipment. It's probably going to be more than 30,000 is just my assumption. But right now, what's built in is to contract it out for about that dollar amount.
So if to actually look at whether maintenance itself should be partially or fully in or out, we would need to know all the numbers associated with maintenance in the village. So we would we'd have to go find those. Are they in a in the account code? Would they all be glommed together, like Brian or Chipper's salary and the part-time people and other
Yes.
the maintenance stuff? Is it, I mean, there's different buckets here for all that stuff. We need to get it together.
I have historically, the last year or two, we've tried to keep all of that maintenance stuff in land and buildings. There's a little bit of it in Parks and Recreation, but we've kind of done that now where it's just the playground. So there's really not salary coming out of there anymore because it's not worthwhile to try and allocate to just the playground. So the bulk of their labor and their wages and benefits are down here in 730. However, 730 is not just that. It also is the expenses of the village. So like all of our electric, all of our gas, also in 730. But the wages and benefits in 730 definitely are all just maintenance.
So one of our steps probably, if we decide that, is to have if we decide to have any kind of maintenance department or whatever, we would want to pull all that into a department, quote, a department. So we could get, because they spend a lot on gas, I'm sure, during the summer. And gasoline and things like that, and insecticide, or chemicals and other kinds of things that should then be pulled out if they're someplace else and put under that umbrella for next year,
Right.
if it goes that way.
Right. I mean, you're talking, you're going to need another person or two. You're going to need another lawnmower. You're going to need between a riding lawnmower, another push lawn, everything that, and I'm going to just be blunt and say everything that we have is, except for the newer lawnmower, is junk. It's my understanding that the lawnmower we're using was something that somebody threw away across the street. That's the push lawnmower that's on its last leg. The weed eater, we actually just got a new weed eater, but again, we have a very limited amount of money that we're able to spend on weed eaters. So we spent $199 on one, which again, for a commercial weed eater, you're going to have to spend money, but we don't necessarily have it budgeted. And I don't think, I think one of the things that you learn sitting here compared to, you don't know all of that stuff. So now you guys do. And it's not, it's not our fiscal, it's not our fiscal officer's fault or Kim's fault or anything. It's, these are types of things that it takes money to operate, for some people, a $200 lawnmower or a $200 weed eater is probably great. But when you're talking about the amount of hours that a weed eater is running,
Right.
it's nowhere near what we need.
Right.
The chainsaw was another one. We just had to go get parts for the chainsaw. So the amount of money that we have available for those types of things it's very difficult. We need a push lawnmower. I'm just going to tell you, we need a push lawnmower. It's on its last leg. It's being held on by bolts. Somebody's going to get hurt. And I'm telling you that our stuff is junk. So, and again, we have a very nice riding lawnmower, but that's where all of the money went. We spent every dollar we had in an $8,000, $9,000 lawnmower, and we have a used street pickup for, what our seasonal person's trying to use to cut the grass right now. So I'm not going to vent about that. It's something that we need to take into consideration. If we have our own maintenance team, you're going to probably have to replace a majority of the things that are in there. So like Kim's saying, we have $30,000. That's not going to pay additional people, additional equipment, additional everything. So if you're going to do this, it's going to have to be a long-term investment.
Yeah, and I personally, just to voice an opinion, so I'm doing something here in the meeting. For as big as it's going to cost us to do this, but as small as we are, I would have to see a big savings from doing it in-house as opposed to contracting it out. And then, as you were saying the other night, a lot of those places then we fold in the leaf thing and could really simplify and streamline all that bidding and all that process.
Good idea. I'm not opposed to any of it. So I don't want to get too far off topic. I know I'm getting off topic right there, but I wanted to just basically tell you that. So for future, I'm going to tell you that we would love to have a little bit more money in being able to get some of if we go that way, we are still going to need a lawnmower. We're still going to need a push lawnmower. We're still going to need a weed eater. Because there are times in which companies can't come out for a couple of days and we may need to do a small project or something like that. So I'm just telling you, I think that that's something that we're going to be looking at. I don't know that I even have the money to do it. So FYI, I may be begging you guys for money for a lawnmower somewhere.
Well, that makes sense. And one of these days it'll be on sale. So if we can.
Exactly. And
at the
I'm
end of
not,
season.
yeah. And I don't think we need $1,000 push lawnmower either. I think there is a happy medium, a couple $100. I don't think it needs to be anywhere near crazy, but I think there's, there is, again, a happy medium. I'm going to read you this real quick. Maybe I probably shouldn't read this before reading it. Going back to the EMS thing, I just this moment completed a draft letter and he's sending it to Gene for his review this evening. So I'll cut it off at that because I'm not going to read all of this. And then it's going to be left up to us whether or not we want to get it sent out immediately after it's reviewed, or if we want to give our chief a little extra time to still try to coordinate it, or do we want to send it off? So I'm going to forward this to the safety committee meeting, but just so you guys are kind of aware. You guys asked what the update was, and that's your update.
Okay,
He has moved forward on it.
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, anything else, Kim, before we call it a wrap? Or Leah, you got anything for us?
I don't have anything.
Kim? Kim is frozen.
Oh, all right. No, I
Not
don't
on
think
my
there's
end.
anything.
What's that?
I'm not sure who that was. Everybody's starting
I
to
don't have
freeze.
anything.
Yay!
You're back. You're back. So, were you saying you didn't have anything else, Kim? I think that's what she said. Do you?
Yeah, she
No.
did. I'll
Okay,
end it.
great. All right.
I can end it for everybody. Thank you guys. If you need anything, just let me know.
Yep.
Good
Thank you.
evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
you.
guys.
Good meeting. Thanks.
Hey, I
Bye.
like these 4 o'clock meetings for the record.
Right?
Bye.
Bye.